right, welcome back to All Hitches, Nova's #1 football podcast. How's everyone doing today? Mesa, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Getting excited again. Start for football season. Football's on TV again. Got the Hall of Fame game on, so you can kind of see it now, right? Teams are back on the field. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It is exciting, and I'm even more excited today because we got Carl Frederick from Prep Red Zone joining us today. Carl, how you doing, buddy?
What's going on, fellas? Glad to be back again. I like that. The #1 football podcast in Northern Virginia. Roll with it, baby. I love it.
Yeah, buddy. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
although
well
I said in the last podcast, we are the best and the worst Nova football podcast currently right now in the world, because there's only one of us.
That's well said.
So we are the worst and the best at the exact same time.
Flight of the Conchords. We are Flight of the Conchords.
We are Flight of the Conchords.
You guys are going through. I mean, you guys have broken down every school so far.
Yeah, we have.
Like, I'm seeing everything posted. What? So you did Concord District. I know you did that. I was on for Oakton last week. You did National. I saw that was up. How's that going so far? It sounds really good. I mean, a lot of my friends at Prep Red Zone are reaching out. Quality sounds really good.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We are definitely excited. Yeah,
that's awesome.
All right. Well, look, in the spirit of the first couple weeks of practice, I'm seeing a lot of really cool videos, a lot of hype videos. Right, a lot of cool stuff out there.
Yeah, I think everybody's been very social media aware, and you know, we live in a day and age, right, where the kids want to make hype videos. I've seen a lot of. I think the last one I watched was the Woodbridge one, where they're driving their cars with the "Not Like Us" by Kendrick Lamar. The song of the summer. Yeah. The song of the summer.
Yeah, social media is a big thing now. It's got to have it. I mean, I'm in a business now with Prep Red Zone where, you know, kids, you know, they want evaluations and stuff, but they don't have like huddle tapes or Twitter follow, you know, and there's only so much we as scouts could do. I mean, that's just really, social media is a new thing. So I'm all for the promotion.
It's impressive. Listen, I mean, some of these kids that are doing this stuff, and you know, a lot of times, a lot of the high schools have a student doing it. Sometimes there's adults doing it, but they've gotten so good. I mean, it's professional quality.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's definitely far past the good old VHS on your shoulder as you're trying to make videos.
Oh man, that was so much fun though.
The Clark Griswold heavy 30-pound recorder on your shoulder
with the date and time in the corner that was always wrong.
Always start with the movie references. Or we got the movie references on.
But yeah, no, it's science to everybody out there. It's fun watching the kids get creative with their stuff.
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking that, because the one thing that we've got a lot of good feedback from coaches, from players, you know, and it's really nice to see it. You know, a lot of people just saying thanks for doing this. You know, there's not a lot of this, and people are just happy to hear it, and we're happy to do it. It's fun, and we're happy to have you on.
Absolutely, and happy to talk about, you know, these next two conferences too that I was very familiar with, and you know, like you guys talked about, this is Northern Virginia football. I think is really being slept on, guys. I mean, you two know this, but like the last 2-3 seasons, even going back to like I want to say 2018-19, hasn't a school from Northern Virginia represented us in this, or us, like I'm from here, been represented in the state title game?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's going back to like South County, and we've had Freedom's run.
Yeah.
So it's really impressive, and nobody's talking about it.
Right. It's impressive, because that never used to happen. I mean, you had your days of Annandale, you had some Centerville runs, and you had the Westfield, run there of the 3 in a row. But outside of like, you know, I mean, it was usually teams from, Southern Virginia.
Right. Times are changing. A lot of good football, and kids from different parts of the state and DMV are transferring the programs around here too. I mean, last year we had Chris Jones, you know, one of the biggest recruits in the country, transferring to play at Fairfax, and that was that wasn't because he won. He didn't transfer. I mean, I believe that was a family move, but that's happening more and more. Northern Virginia football is excellent football.
Yeah, no, it really is. And today's episode, we're going to kind of, we've been hanging around Fairfax and Arlington and Alexandria, and now we're going to go west, young men. We're going to go west.
Yes, sir.
I think it's west. I don't really know. Actually,
south too, right? Taking a trip down taking a trip down 95. Spending $45.
Yeah, we're right there.
Spending $45.
Last stop before you go all the way to Florida.
That's right. That's right. So we're gonna start with the Cardinal District today in Prince William. I'm excited to talk about Cardinal. This is a tough conference, fellas.
Well, I mean, they've got a ton of talent down there, and also there's some traditional powers, right? I mean, and the first thing we're going to talk about with Hylton, but there was a long stretch of time where Hylton was a state title contender year in, year out. You had SEC guys coming out of Woodbridge High School. I mean, and then you have the Freedom Run for the last couple of years. They've been really good as well.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of fun breaking these teams down.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
All right, so we're gonna talk about Hylton. We're gonna start at the bottom like we've been doing and work our way up. We're gonna start at good old Hylton High School, Hylton Bulldogs.
Yeah. So last year they went 3-7. They've had 3 consecutive losing seasons, which is not common for them. So in 2020 they were 3-3. You'd have to go all the way back to 2007. They were 3-7 before they had losing seasons. So they've fallen on tough times, but traditionally they've been a really good school. I know like a tradition for them is they play Battlefield week 1, which is last few years notwithstanding is normally a pretty big game. But they've fallen on some hard times. So they've hired a new coach, one Jared Van Acker, which I am quite familiar with because that was my guy I ate lunch with for 4 years. At we're currently teaching at Woodson, and VA has had a really successful run in his years. He's been down south, had some really successful years down there. Went up to Battlefield. I think he had an 8-3 and a 8-2 and a 7-3 record at Battlefield, and then his last head coaching stop at Woodson, got them all the way to the region title game. And Woodson is not your traditional power. So he's had a lot of success, and then I think he's primed and ready for a turnaround there. I think he's the right guy at the right school to really get that program turned around.
Yeah, all transparency, like you said. We worked with Van Acker. We coached under Van Acker. A friend of ours, and darn good coach. Yeah. Knows football. I'll put him up there with almost anybody. His football knowledge. He's multiple. He'll cater his teams to the talent that he has, which I think is always a sign of a good coach.
Yeah.
I think he's been waiting and kind of waiting for the moment, and the last few years since he left Woodson as a coach, and I think this is it. He's ready to pounce and take seize the day. I think he's gonna carpe diem. Yeah. I said, or I don't know how my, but I think Van Acker's gonna seize the day here. I think he's really gonna take full advantage of this gig at Hylton.
Just talking about Hylton and the direction they're going, I really like the hire here, Coach Van Acker. Talking with him when I did my team preview with them, he's not blind. He knows that this year could be a bit of a rebuild year, and their schedule, like you guys said, right out of the gate, going to Battlefield, which could be one of the best teams in the state, should be a state title contender, is not easy. But they have some nice pieces coming back. They really do. I mean, talking before we came on the podcast, this kid Logan Marshall, who I watched a couple times last year and covering Hylton, he's a Division I corner. He'll play a lot of running back this year. He's our 16th ranked running back in the entire class of 2025.
Wow.
So that's saying a lot when this special class of running backs too, with guys like Overton and Jackson McCarter. Logan Marshall is a Division I football player. I think he will play at the next level at corner, defensive back. He has offers from Yale, VMI, and Colgate. He has a 3.7 GPA. But I'm excited to see VA. Am I allowed to call him that? I know he's your guy's friend. I heard you say VA. Can I say Coach VA?
Yeah, you can say VA. Yeah, sure. He's a man of the people.
I'm excited. Okay, I like it. I'm excited to see VA with his offense and a kid like Logan Marshall. 'Cause I thought a few times last year he was not being used properly, and then next thing you know, I've seen him take off on a 50-yard dash play. The kid has elite Division I speed, and I'm excited to see what he's the kid that VA should be excited about. I mean, he talked about it in our write-up. Marshall's really, taking a leadership role on by storm because they graduated a few seniors into new coaching staff. So he's somebody that VA is really high on too. So that's one kid that's back from. That's a nice when you're coming in a new situation. It's nice to have a kid like Logan Marshall, Division I kid. He's been there. You can count on him for a leadership aspect. Expect to see a lot of Logan Marshall for the Bulldogs on both sides of the ball this year.
Yeah, no, and one thing about VA, like you said, knowing him the way I do, it's run the ball and defense. And he's a Bears fan. We always talk about it. He's a big Chicago Bears fan. So he likes running the football. Okay. He likes tough defense. And
okay.
So what are we looking there? Any guys stand out to you there on the defensive side of the ball there?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because he was really when I asked him about both his offense and defense, he likes the potential in his offense, but defensively, VA is really high on the potential of this defense, especially in the secondary. This is a secondary that not only had Logan Marshall, who will be Division I football player, they got Antonio Pride coming back. He's a sophomore. He played a lot as a freshman until he went down with a season-long injury. He only played in 4 games last year. He had 5 interceptions as a freshman, guys.
Wow.
Antonio Pride is a 5'8", 145-pound little pit bull. He's got, great technique. He's going to be an all-district defensive back. They also have some other guys coming back on defense. Mason Cheatham is a guy in the secondary that, again, expect in this really good defense that Hylton has, their secondary, to have 3 guys playing college football out of it. Mason Cheatham's another one. He's a 6'1", 205 pounds, a big physical kid. He should be a Division II or higher. Ever football player. And another kid to know for the class of 2026 is Malik Muhammad. Now, he didn't play a lot as a sophomore. Hylton did have some studs up front. So he's going to have a chance this year. He's 6'3", 190 pounds, a rising junior. VA pointed him out specifically. He has a high motor, big, strong, tough kid. He's really been committed to his craft this offseason. He expects his sack numbers to, double this year and could be among the league leaders in sacks. And another name he wanted me to mention is Xavier Baker, a sophomore, who's playing a little bit in the secondary for this Bulldog squad. Xavier Baker is another class of 2027 kid. It's a lot of younger kids that he mentioned. A lot in these team previews, guys. When I reach out to these coaches, they tend to send me more returning players as opposed to newcomers. And VA, has a lot of newcomers more than returning starters that he's excited about. So I think maybe not this year for the Bulldogs, but in a year or two, you could see them being back on top of the Cardinal District.
Yeah, that's all good. The Xavier Baker, I think we're going to call him Xavier Baker, the touchdown maker. He was telling me about his speed. This kid was like greased lightning.
Okay, so you guys know he mentioned using him on offense with Marshall too. So that's Hylton's offense should be a lot better than it was last year under VA. I'm excited to see those two work together in the backfield. And you guys mentioned, he loves to run too. What better combo to have than Logan Marshall and Xavier Baker?
Well, I think when you have a two-way guy like Logan Marshall, you got to find a way to get him a blow, right? I mean, he's Absolutely. Probably the best. I mean, since he's a Division I, he's going to be a Division I defensive player. He's going to be the best player on his defense. And so with that, you're going to need to find a way to get him a blow, and you're probably going to get the blow on offense. And to have a guy that's lightning quick, and VA likes to run that single wing, and with that spinner back there, getting those two guys going. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen film with it. And I was there when he was running. I think that's going to be really effective, especially when you have an offense like the single wing that not a lot of people run. Which we've talked before about other types of offenses. You've got to prepare for that offense, and if you're not prepared for it, or if it's flawed, it can end up being a long night. And VA being the coach he is, I can see him taking advantage of a lot of teams if they're not prepared for it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, shut down corners, pass rushers, running backs, Division I running backs. I was playing DB, but Division I running back. There's a lot to like with this team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the hype has been building in a positive direction for the Bulldogs since VA named the head coach. And that's not just from you guys. I mean, I've been hearing that for what they hired back in January. When was the hire made official?
I want to say it was probably in January, late January, early February.
February, yeah. There.
Whenever it was January, February, whenever he's hired, the hype has been building up, and I could tell he has a good confidence in this team. I know they're going to be young this year, but I wouldn't be. They're the type of team too that I will see, even if they stumble out of the gate, getting a lot better as the year goes on under him, especially offensively. And in this conference, that typically sends 2 to 3, sometimes 4 teams. It wouldn't surprise me if they're in think of the playoff race come week 10.
Yeah, I think I agree with you actually. All right, kind of finishing off there with Hylton and moving up to Colgan, Charles J. Colgan High School. Mesa, what do you got for us? So
last year, Colgan went 4-6 last year overall, but they had they had a loss. They had a 1-point loss. They had that one touchdown loss to Gar-Field, so they could have evened up right there.
And they ended up for that one. They had many chances to win that game. Not to cut you off, Coach, but I was covering that game. They could have won that game.
Yeah, so I mean, they're definitely a up and coming squad. And the interesting thing about the Cardinal in particular is there was only a 3-game difference between last place and second place. Freedom ran away with it last year.
Right.
So everybody was in the strike. I mean, you look at that finishing 4-6, they were 2 games out of second place, and so they win that game. They're right back in the thick of things. If you look at historically for them, where are we at there? If you like historically for them, they've been building wins. I mean, just 2 years ago they were 0-10. They're 0-10, 3-7, 4-6. So it looks like they're building some momentum there at Colgan. Under Coach Scott, just kind of making significant improvements right there. But for the one thing for them coming up though the season though is that they opened with Lake Braddock, who I think everybody here thinks Lake Braddock is definitely a state contender this year. So I think that's going to tell you a lot. Tell you a lot about who they are coming forward.
Well, looking at Colgan stats from a year ago, again, freedom withstanding, right? They were the highest scoring offense. Colgan was the highest scoring offense in their conference, and defensively, points against, they were kind of middle of the pack. So what that says to me is there were some close games, like you said, some games they probably should have won or could have won, and some balls didn't go their way. So you change some of that, you flip some of that a little bit, and like you said, you might have a 7-win season coming up this year. Now, a big part of that's going to be what players are coming back, what players are leaving.
Right.
Carl, what do you got there in that regard?
So a couple things about Colgan too. They started their program in 2017. They have yet to reach the postseason. They were within, going back to what you guys were talking about. They were right in the thick of things until week 10, and they finished 4-6. What was crazy because of the point system, Potomac Senior got in the playoffs, that final spot, instead of them. So that would have been their first time in the playoffs, in the region playoffs in school history. But they finished 2023 on a high note and winning that thriller over Potomac Senior High School. And then now under Coach Scott, I got to be honest, he was one of my favorite coaches to cover last year. He's very welcoming. He's building something special out there. Colgan's a school that Manassas that draws a crowd, whether they're winning or losing. That's something you really appreciate as an old school football fan. But in terms of guys that got coming back, now they did lose some studs from last year's team, but they do have. We'll start on defensively, which, speaking of really good defense, Colgan Sharks might have the best defense in the conference. Cameron Davis is defensive end. He's 6'3", 220 pounds. He had 8.5 sacks as a junior, which is a Colgan single-season school record. And talking with Coach Scott, he's really big on him. He thinks, with the pieces they have coming back that he could double. Not double his sack total from a year ago, but definitely break his own record, which is really ridiculous when you think about it. He already has an offer from Stevenson University, has a couple of Division II schools, interested in him. Offensively, though, why they were really good, with the exception of the Freedom game offensively, George Hall is a junior now. He's the quarterback. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the state of Virginia. He's our 9th-ranked quarterback for the class of 2026 with Prep Red Zone. Big, good-looking kid as a sophomore, got better as the year went on, got a big frame. He was honorable mention all district. He has a lot of firepower, and the thing I liked about him last year is he got better as the year went on. It's a lot asking a kid to start as a sophomore. You know that, Coach. And especially a quarterback in a tough conference. And he, was really within a few points. I don't know exactly how the VHL-SL point system works, but they were within a few fractions of a point of, if they would have beaten Gar-Field, and I believe it was like week 5, they would have been in the playoffs.
Well, and they also had the 1-point loss to Woodbridge. So I mean, they had 2 games. They had 2 games that they definitely could have turned around on either point.
Absolutely, and Coach Scott has been building a really nice thing over there in Colgan. He's really happy with their off-season workouts. I mean, a couple other kids too that are coming back. LJ Richards, another class of 2026 kid. He had 100 tackles, nearly 100 tackles as a sophomore at linebacker. He's a stud. He was all Cardinal District a year ago. Runs a 4.7 40. I've been high on this kid for a minute. LJ Richards is a nice piece there at linebacker, and another. Yeah, they got a lot of young kids too. Defensive end, he's a sophomore guy. His name Ahaji Carmera. If Carmera, because he'll listen to this too, if he doesn't hear me talk about it, he'll get upset and be blowing up my DMs. Just so you know, he playing opposite side of Cameron Davis. He's a guy. He's 6'1", 205 pounds, one of our top edge rushers for his class. He really could have 15 sacks this year on that Colgan defensive line. And Avon Fortner in their secondary, he's a junior. He played a lot as a sophomore, 6-foot corner. Good length and speed. He was a kid. He went up against guys like Cameron Courtney from Freedom, who's over at James Madison now, Division I kids, and he held his own. This is a kid that's going to be talked about a lot in the Cardinal District.
Wow, that's impressive. You're bringing back a stud, quarterback. You're bringing back, some stud defenders. Watch out for Colgan.
Yeah, I bought into the hype train early on because Coach Scott, when I first started with Inside Nova, he was really welcoming. Let them in, see their new locker room, and you could tell that the fans are buying in too. I mean, and cool thing is, he gets them in the playoffs this year. It's the first time in history he gets to have that on his little resume. Led them to their first playoff appearance in school history, which they're right on the cusp of doing.
Right.
Yeah, wow. That.
No, I was gonna say, they look like they got the schedule, and I think with all of them, right, is who's gonna take advantage of, with what's going on at Freedom. We'll get to talk about Freedom a little bit in a minute, but obviously they are not, they're not the power that they once were. I don't want to get to talk about Freedom, but there's a vacuum essentially, right, in this district. And who's going to be the team that kind of emerges to the top?
For sure. It's you can say it's wide open. I mean, you said it a second ago. What was the difference between the second ranked team in the conference to the last?
3 games.
3 games. I mean, it's a wide open conference now. And that's awesome. I think that is great, and it makes it fun.
Right. Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. It's going to be a fun year in the Cardinal District.
Yeah, everybody has a chance.
Yeah. All right. Well, looking forward to seeing Colgan in action this year and watching that quarterback sling it. All right, so we're going up to Gar-Field. All right, talking a little about Gar-Field. The Gar-Field, solid squad. I mean, missed 4-6 last year, and had a chance for the playoffs there. And in week 10, that's what you said, Carl.
Yeah, they fell to Woodbridge in week 10. They're another team they're traditionally in the playoffs, and I covered them a lot last year too. I think it was at like 4 or 5 of their games. They have a lot of kids coming back. They also were hurt badly by a few kids, not only graduation, but they had 3 kids, really good kids transferring. Actually 2 kids, one of the other kids from Unity Reed. They're all transferring that St. Michael's, the Archangel. But yeah, Gar-Field's another team, a new head coach that could be on the cusp of being back in the playoffs, or they could be around 500 looking at their roster.
Yeah, kind of like you were saying, this was the first year they made the playoffs in 1, 2, 3, 4 years. They made the playoffs 4 consecutive years. But it was the Cardinal District last year where it just seemed like anybody could get beat by anybody else in there. And I think what Carl said too, the Week 10 loss is what really hurt them.
Now, real quick, looking at Gar-Field's numbers last year, they had the lowest scoring offense. They had the lowest scoring offense in the entire conference by them and Potomac were close, but I mean, outside of those two, it was a lot less.
Yeah. And if you look at their schedule with Gar-Field, they play Gainesville and Battlefield on back-to-back weeks, which are two of the top teams in the region. So they open the Unity Reed, but then they have to play. Last year it was Gainesville, Battlefield, and Freedom all in a row.
Wow.
Freedom obviously is going to be a different team, but Gainesville and Battlefield are going to be really good this year. So I mean that makes a schedule where you have to really kind of prepare yourself. And last year they only lost to Gainesville by 7 points. So I think that kind of speaks to how talented they were last year.
That's a battle-tested team, though.
Absolutely.
Gar-Field won't back down.
So Carl, tell us a little about some of the players they have coming back this year that we should look out for.
Now talking about some of the players they have to come back, and they do have some, for new head coach Zach Edmonds, they have some nice pieces coming back. Unfortunately, they lost really good punt returner / defensive back Jermaine Gillian. He's one of the kids that transferred to St. Michael's. He has a couple of offers, including one from Maine. But my favorite kid coming back is Herman Action Jackson, another big-time running back that doesn't get enough attention. He's one of the best. I saw a lot of talented running backs last year, and he was one of the best. I'm telling you, the kid is a burner. He's ranked 85th in the state in terms of our class of 2025 rankings. He's a really humble kid too. He doesn't like to talk much. I interview him after games, and I remember after he gashed Unity Reed for close to 150 yards week 1, and he's not a talker, but he's got great explosion with the football. He's got good vision. He looks, in my opinion, a Division II or higher running back. He received first team all district honors last year as both a running back and a kickoff returner. So he's a burner, and he's back. Defensively, speaking of Division I talent, James Blacker and their defensive backfield, he's a 5'11" corner. He's our 14th ranked defensive back in the state of Virginia. He has a 3.7 GPA. Also, just recently got an offer from VMI. And now going back to some of their younger kids, Gar-Field really they can keep these kids in school, like not transferring out like Tyson Woods and Jermaine Gillian did, which, that's fine. Eric Nelson is one of the top sophomores in the state. He is currently ranked 16th in the class of 2027 in terms of recruiting. He's a big-time linebacker who started as a freshman. Yeah, he's been, in terms of the hype, he's delivered. He had 64 tackles as a freshman stepping into playing in the Cardinal District. I see this kid watching play. He's got great range, strength. He has the ability to play college football. So he's the name Eric Nelson you're going to want to remember. In terms of new kids, too, with the mass exodus that Freedom kind of has, and kids are in different places throughout Virginia, Caleb Clemens, he's a rising sophomore for them. He plays for Freedom Woodbridge's varsity team last year, a little bit as an outside linebacker, but he's a kid that, is, familiar with the area. He's on Gar-Field's roster that Coach Evans wanted me to talk about, too. He was on their state title team last year. Now he's going to be starting for Gar-Field's team this year at linebacker. So they got some nice young linebackers over for Coach Evans to work with. And Giovanni King Cooper is back healthy again. He's a big-time defensive lineman. It was, really on his way before he got hurt. He missed a lot of time as a sophomore and as a junior. He's 6 foot, 285 pounds. If you watch his tape, the kid gets off of low base. He has a lot of pop, knocking around offensive linemen. He's going to be a name to watch. So, Coach Edmonds, he's embracing it, that he knows Gar-Field is, they've been competitive in the playoffs, but they needed to change. And, he's been embracing the culture there, and he's in the building, and, the talent is there for Gar-Field to get back in the playoffs, if not, possibly win the Cardinal District. Again, they're not the clear-cut favorite, but there's no reason they can't be back in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, after hearing that, the favorite of my book, they got he got studs all over the place over here. I'm excited that was a lot of solid players in it, and all those guys were like top 10, top 15 at their positions. This is a pretty exciting team to watch.
There's talent there at Gar-Field. A lot of talent, man.
The one thing I'll say, we didn't talk about this at the beginning of the show, but I know that, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on all the rules for going to different schools for different trades and that kind of thing. At Prince, I know Prince William's a little bit easier to get a pass to go to another school in the county than it is in other school districts. And I think what you've seen, and you alluded to it with Clemens, is that some of the kids after Coach Overton left Freedom, I think some of the kids who stayed in Prince William, who stayed in their neighborhoods, some of them decided to go back to their base schools.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like what Caleb Clemens did, and Coach Edmonds is happy to have him. He's really excited to have that. Like the kid was a sophomore playing for a state title team. He didn't play a ton, but it's still something, and that winning experience he has back with Gar-Field. I'm sure I could see why Coach Edmonds would be happy to have somebody like that back in the fold.
Oh yeah, heck yeah! I mean that's going to make a lot of these teams. I mean, some of these players going back to their base schools is going to make a lot of these teams, stronger.
Well, I think that's why it's going to be really hard to try to gauge this district, because with again, the vacuum Freedom leaves, these kids are now going back to the schools. These schools are not going to look the same as they did the year before, because if they've got a few kids who come back after playing for Freedom for a few years, it's going to change. It's going to change the makeup of the district.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Gar-Field again. I'm solid squad, playmakers all over the place. Can't wait to watch them this coming season. We're going to head on up to Woodbridge, gentlemen. Woodbridge. So
Woodbridge finished 4-6, but this is their third consecutive year of finishing out at 4-6. They had a couple wins. They're another team that plays Gainesville and Battlefield back-to-back weeks. They have the really close win against Colgan, and so the last three games, I mean, just look like barn burners. They beat Colgan 21-20. They lose to Potomac Senior 13-0, and they beat Gar-Field 14-7, which I thought was really interesting with them.
You called those barn burners. You were being sarcastic.
How they are barn burners, the defensive barn burners. I'm sorry, Mr.
Defensive barn burner.
I'm sorry, Mr. Offensive guy.
I'm not gonna lie. I was waiting for you to say like the 45-40 barn burner, and then I heard 14-7. And I was like, wait, is he kidding?
It was a defensive barn burner.
For a lot of these. I was at a lot of these defensive barn burners. I got what he said.
But it goes along with the way the Cardinal was. So it looks like they got some talent. They got some talent coming back there at Woodbridge. What's really weird is, before we get into it seems like all these schools have a running back coming back.
Yeah.
All these schools have got a guy at running back. And so what about Woodbridge? How do they look?
So yeah, it's funny you say that about running backs. I literally joked with my buddy Cole Lang, who works with me at Prep Red Zone. He covers more of the Southern Virginia. I said 2025 is going to be the year of the running back for Virginia, and that means just in Prince Williams County alone, we have, Jeffrey Overton, Jackson McCarter, Landon Hunt, Logan Marshall, a list of guys just in Prince Williams County that are going to be Division II or higher caliber football players. In terms of Woodbridge, what I want to talk about first, yes, they were 4-6 last year for the third year in a row. But first, when you talk about Woodbridge, you have to talk about their quarterback, Denari Hill. He started as a freshman last year. I believe he started all 10 games, and he is 6'4", 180 pounds. He looks, pro ready. I mean, I know that's a lot, but watching him up close, he's one of the top ranked prospects in the class of 2027, the second ranked quarterback prospect in 2027. Yeah, but watching him last year, guys, as a freshman, he saw the field like he was playing the game for a long time. He looked like a veteran out there. He was second team all district, threw for 16 touchdowns, and really got better as the year went on. He made some big time plays in their thrilling win over Gar-Field and that defensive barn burner, as Coach alluded to. But he's a kid that you're going to want to remember, and hopefully he stays, with Woodbridge, because he's just so much fun to watch. And again, I don't want to lose the transfer thing. It does happen more in Prince Williams County, more than other counties, I would say. Nari Hill, you got to talk about him first with the Woodbridge Vikings. He's their quarterback of the future and present as well. In terms of other guys, now they graduated a decent amount of seniors.
They had some stud receivers, right, last year. Yeah, they had a couple of receivers who were really good.
Denzel Lambert, who's playing, I believe, at St. Francis now, was a Division I receiver and basketball player. I've watched him take over a couple different games. There was a game, against Hylton where it was nothing, right, 0-0 right before halftime, and Hill was a little bit out of his element, and he hit Lambert on a couple of screen passes, and Lambert got the offense going. Yeah, he was a special player. So they lost him. They lost Dominique Williams, their big-time defensive lineman / running back, who made a lot of plays. But they have some nice pieces with kids that are coming in to stepping up. Tyler Opong is a defensive lineman that I saw at the Prince Williams County Showcase. That he played a lot, as a junior. He's got a good length. I believe he's 6'2". You're going to remember that name, Tyler Opong, on their defensive line. And defensive back, they have another big-time prospect in Neo. He goes by Nehemiah Williams, class 2025 kid, rising senior. He is 5'10", 155 pounds, 3.6 GPA. He's a kid that I could see playing Division III higher or football. And again, the linebacker, they have another guy stepping up that Coach Longerbeam is high on is Matthew Hunt. He's a rising senior. He's our 120th ranked prospect in class of 2025. He's a fast, good-sized middle linebacker that could be their team leader this year. And Bishop Prescott is another guy, and defensively for the Vikings, that's a rising junior that is poised to have a bigger role. He already had a big role in their secondary last year, but in terms of running backs, that's who Coach Longerbeam, I think, is going to count on. The running backs is Bishop Prescott. He's a quick little back at 5'10", really good speed. He's going to, play at the next level defensively, but he's going to be a good running back for the Vikings too.
Yeah, and with Woodbridge, I know that what'd you say, the last 3 years?
Yeah, they've gone 4-6 3 years in a row.
But there was a time, Woodbridge would just turn out solid teams. So it sounds like they're on their way to kind of bringing that back.
They could be, but it's all about like you guys were alluding to. The Cardinal District, their out of conference play is no joke. Like Colgan opens up with Lake Braddock, Hylton opens up with Battlefield, Gar-Field plays Gainesville in week 2. Like it really depends. So Woodbridge's schedule, I don't believe it is as brutal as the rest of the squads. Now we'll get to in the Cardinal District where it's really up for grabs. But I like what Coach Longerbeam had to say. Like when I was reaching out to him, he kind of changed up. He was alluding to that. We've been mediocre these last 3 years at 4-6. We had to change things up, so they changed their off-season program. He's got kids really buying in to a new system, and he's really excited about the kids that got returning, especially the development of Hill at quarterback.
You have a quarterback like that and a solid running back. Sky's the limit, right?
Absolutely. And, I like what Coach Longerbeam had to say in this interview. They're tired of being mediocre or playing spoiler like they did last year and spoiling Gar-Field's chance at the playoffs. They want to have the Vikings back in the playoffs.
Well, I think they're on their way. All right, heading to Potomac.
All right, so last year, Potomac went 4-6 in the regular season, and then they got into the playoffs. They had a tough stretch at the very end. They lost 3 of their last 4, including the playoff game against Freedom. But they had this really tough stretch where they were playing one-score games about the middle of the season. They lost at Forest Park 13-7. and a pretty talented Forest Park, and we'll probably get into them. We'll get into them in a minute. Then they beat Hylton 15-6, and then beat Gar-Field 14-0. So it makes a really interesting part of their of their schedule. Their trend has been about 4 to 5 wins for probably the last 4 years. In 2019, they went 1-9, but then after that 4-2 in the COVID year, 4-5. The year after that, 5-5, and then 4-7 last year. So Coach Johnson's really kind of put in a demanding offseason program. I think we keep on talking about this, but the Cardinal District being so close as it is, these off seasons are going to make these incremental steps that are going to make probably the difference between where you're going to finish at. I keep on hammering on it, but freedom's gone. The freedom team that you once saw is no longer there. So now everyone's trying to find that little small competitive edge going in there. It looks like they have some pretty good players coming back. You want to talk about that a little, Carl? What they have coming back?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're another team, like I said, they're right on the cusp. I mean, they snuck into the playoffs, kind of like backpedaling the playoffs. But I believe they lost. Yeah, they lost week 10 to Colgan, but they still got into the playoffs over them. But they got a nice nucleus coming back. I mean, Coach Johnson has been, since he took over in 2021, done a really solid job with the Panthers. Like, he's had them at or above 500 football, and every year he's been there too. Again, he's a guy, he recognizes that the Cardinal District is wide open this year, and they got some nice pieces coming back. I mean, at quarterback, they have a tough, this guy, Damian McDonald, is a rising senior. When you see him, he looks like he could play linebacker. He's a big, lumbering kid at 6 foot, 235 pounds. Throws a really good deep ball. I mean, I love when I love watching him throw in the run, but I honestly, selfishly, you don't want to see this out of your quarterback. I love when he's running down the field because he runs, with shoulders down. He's not looking to get out of bounds. He's an old school type of quarterback. That's what I enjoyed about him the most. He's poised for a nice year. Where Potomac does well is when they're, solid up front. They were really stout on both sides of the ball last year. Now they graduated a lot of seniors, but they got a kid in Cameron Guzman who plays both offensive and defensive line. He is 5'10", 227 pounds. He's not the biggest kid, but he's definitely one of the strongest in the Cardinal District. He's really good with his hands. He's really good at the point of attack, picking up blitzes. He's really good, especially for a guy like McDonald who likes to throw on the run. He's kind of the leader up front. And they got some, Coach Johnson was another one, he like VA, that wanted to point out more newcomers as opposed to returning starters. Speaking of newcomers, though, in terms of the transfer, defensive back Nico Archie, he transferred in from Colgan, where he played last year, and I watched him play, and he had 2 interceptions in 1 quarter. The game I was covering, their win over Osborne.
Wow.
Yeah, he's going to be a senior, 5'8", 155 pounds, tough defensive back. Played really well for Coach Scott last year, and now he's under their Coach Johnson's wing defensively. So, yeah, I expect the Panthers to once again be really good defensively. Josiah Barbarina is another kid, good defensive back, but he's a kid that you're probably, in terms of like college prospects for this senior class with Potomac, Barbarina is the one. Josiah Barbarina. He's a big-time receiver that's looking to step up. Again, Potomac graduated a lot of skill position guys too, and Barbarina played a lot last year as a junior. He's going to play a lot more and probably be the focal point of their offense.
Well, you got Big Ben throwing the ball to Heinz Ward down the field there.
That's it. You're all about the comps, Coach. I love it. I love it.
Well, not a lot of quarterback linebacker kids anymore. I mean, maybe back in the 50s that was a thing, but a quarterback.
Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly.
There you go. Matt Seneca for a brief minute at Penn State. That's what. And he's a great kid too. And they're a team that's they recognize the district is up for grabs, and they're a well coached team. Coach Johnson's done a really nice job there. They could find themselves at the top of this district too. It's there's 7 teams in this district this year. There's no clear-cut favorite. I think we've all established that.
No. And just going back to what I said before, we don't know the makeup of how these teams are going to look because of the transfers that will come in, right? So it's kind of hard to judge at this point. That's going to be interesting. But they're another team though that go Gainesville, Battlefield back to back. I don't know if Cedar Run says you have to play both of them. You have to play both of them back to back. I don't know exactly how that.
Yeah, that is strange. Huh?
Yeah.
How that works out, but yeah, that's another one. They open with Gainesville and Battlefield, and then Colonial Forge, which is no joke as well.
One thing they got to they'll address, and I'm sure they've been working on all off season, but again, points against. They allowed again by a good amount the most points in the conference.
Yeah, they struggled if they weren't getting to the quarterback last year. Potomac, that is, it was a struggle for them defensively. Now they had some good moments, and I think Coach Johnson recognized they had to get better. You know, you guys you just read the numbers there. They got to get better defensively, and I think the Panthers will be.
Yeah, sounds like they have the tools to make it happen.
Absolutely.
All right, Forest Park. I'm hearing good things about Forest Park here, gentlemen.
Yeah, I will say this. We've heard really positive things about Forest Park. They finished second, so you would think just kind of coming back, they'll probably be the quote unquote favorite just because of where they finished out last year and because they're returning a lot of players. They started last year 0-2, but Mountain View and Riverbend are not pushovers. And then they rattle off 3 straight. They lose to Freedom. They beat Woodbridge. Now they lose to Gar-Field 13-9. Besides Freedom,
that was a shocking game. I was not to cut you off, Coach. I was covering that game, and they dominated that until the last 2 minutes. And Gar-Field threw 2 passes, 2 bombs by a replacement quarterback, and won that game in shocking fashion. But yeah, they were the better team. Forest Park should have been. I mean, they went 6-5 with their playoff loss to Mountain View. That should have been 7-5.
Well, that was their second 6-5 win of the year, or 6-5 season. They went 2022 6-5. They were 5-6 the year before that. 2-4, 4-6, 1-8, 3-7. It looks like they're building something there.
Yeah.
I will say everything I've heard about them, and Carl, I think you probably speak us a little more, is their style of play is pretty physical. They return a 1,500-yard back. From what I've heard, their offensive line is massive, and they very much are a impose their will on you kind of team. But that's where I think when you lose games like that, 13-9, that's kind of what happens. If you're not a high-scoring offense and you're used to get ground pound, and you're not able to put away a team, relatively early, you leave yourself open for possibly, fluke plays that got to go for touchdowns.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of Forest Park, that's kind of like, well, I agree. They are on paper the best team in the Cardinal District, or at least the favorites. One thing I'm not like, their offense, yeah, just like you said, they're ground and pound. They might throw 4 to 5 times a game. They do not like to throw over there, and I don't know if that is a playoff winning formula. Just to be honest with you, I think it's good enough to get through the regular season. I'd like to see them, like Coach Robin, to change up his offense a little bit this year because they have the horses up front. You alluded to it earlier, Coach. Nathaniel Wright is a Virginia Tech commit. He's one of the top prospects in the entire class, the 4th-ranked offensive lineman, 24th overall in the class of 2025 from Virginia. Nathaniel Wright is a massive offensive tackle at 6'5", 275 pounds. He had offers from Division I schools throughout the country. Again, they're huge up front. They're the biggest offensive line in the state. They were last year, too. Wow. Brandon Adozie at guard is 6'6", 275 pounds. Now, Adozie is committed to Liberty. He's more of the project as opposed to Nathaniel Wright. Right, they have Adozie at guard because he's also athletic enough to play guard. He's a borderline Division I basketball player too. He was originally a basketball star, and they converted him into a Division I football player. So there's that. Yeah. They have some other nice pieces, but in terms of star backs, Landon Hunt was one of my favorite kids to cover last year. He nearly led the conference. I believe he might have actually led the Cardinal District in rushing it. He had like a little over 1,400 yards, averaging 6.3 yards per carry. Landon Hunt is a rising senior, 5'10", 210 pounds. I've gotten to know the kid really well and his family. He's a great team-first kid. He will get a lot of college opportunities, a lot of Division II schools, a lot of schools from my home state and the PSAC are really interested in him. He's been up their way a lot. But Landon Hunt is, again, another big-time running back out of Prince William County. Defensively, they have Evan Weeks. He is a Division I caliber linebacker at 6'3", 215 pounds. He just recently got an offer from Hampton. I scrolled down a little bit looking at my notes. He just got an offer from Hampton last month. He looks like a Power 5 linebacker on tape. He is an absolute stud. Antonio Jones at linebacker is a guy, a class 2026 kid. He's going to play a lot more. He himself last year had a really nice sophomore campaign. I mean, everybody, when they look at Forest Park's defense, they're looking at Evan Weeks. Antonio Jones is another nice football player for them to have, too.
That's impressive stuff. I mean, you're rattling off all these guys with, big offers. And I was watching Landon Hunt, some of his highlights on, on Huddle, and I was watching some of his training he's got on Twitter. I mean, this guy's looking like Walter Payton out there. He's running up and down the hills and running and stuff.
Oh, he's so committed to his craft, and he came to our Prep Red Zone showcase that was in PA. He's making the way around for local camps this summer. I know he has an offer from Stevenson, but he's one of those kids. He's like Aiden. He's so easy to get behind, and you really just root for their success. I mean, and so I'm pulling for him. I all the kids I work with, and I value, I root for them all. But Landon Hunt, he's a special talent. He's fun to work with.
That's awesome. That's great. Now, quarterback wise, I did speak to a couple coaches, not in this conference, different conference, but they knew a little bit about some of these guys, and they said that quarterback Nathan Song. I don't know if he's going to win the quarterback job. I don't know who's going to win the quarterback job, but spoke highly about Nathan Song. He's in the mix there to win that job.
Yeah, and that's like we were talking about before we came on, talking about Forest Park. Like I said, they're a run-first offense that coach only likes to throw a few times a game. He's the type of coach, he'll only throw if he absolutely has to. So that'll be interesting to see who they get to replace Tyler Schultzke last year, who was their starting quarterback. And Song, you said Nathan Song? Is that his
Nathan
name?
Song, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, Coach Robin, they talked about him in the pre-show, right, when I did their team preview. So looks like he'll be under center. I mean, it's a big responsibility because there's a lot, expectations at Forest Park. They, on paper, I just ripped it off. They have 2 Division I linemen, guys, and a Division I linebacker. They're probably the favorites in that district. So it's a lot of pressure for whoever's under center for the Bruins.
Yeah, no doubt. And to your point, I mean, if you're going to take that extra step, it's one thing to win the conference, and that's awesome. But I'm sure they got their eye on bigger things. And, at some point, right, that quarterback's going to have to, whoever it's going to be, they probably will have to throw the ball more than 4 times if they're going to want to advance a little bit.
I watched them. I thought that lost in the game against Gar-Field, just to be honest with you. That was a 13-9 game that they were dominating. And, they were running every play, and Gar-Field's defense slowed them down enough. They just kept within striking distance and, just had to hit a couple of big plays. So I think if they want to, if they're serious about making a playoff run, like I think they are, they're going to have to change up their offense just a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to be a quarterback behind the biggest O-line in the state.
In the state, yeah. There's some big dudes. If you guys get out to Forest Park, you'll see some big dudes.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to watch for it. I might need to do that, actually. I might need to watch this big line and Landon Hunt, who sounds like a stud in person. All right, moving on to the last, gentlemen. We have climbed the mountain. And we are at Freedom Woodbridge High School.
So we can talk about they are the currently reigning state champions until they crown a new state champion in this year, and it could be Freedom again this year. Who knows?
Could be.
But until that happens, they are the current reigning champion. I think we talked about it on the Hayfield podcast. We are all quite aware of what happened at Freedom and kind of where they're at. At this point, we don't know a whole lot. I mean, let's put all our cards on the table here. We don't know a whole lot. We don't know exactly what they have coming back. We know most of the people that you watch play at Freedom for the last few years have not come back. Before Coach Overton got there, they had since 2006 is the earliest I found. Their best season was a 3-7 season before Coach Overton got there. Before he got in there and players started coming to there. I mean, we've talked about transfers. We we all know he got transfers into Woodbridge. That's I don't think we're telling any secrets. That being said, a lot about them. Now, I can tell some of a similar story. So those of you, anybody who follows high school football in California knows that Narbonne High School, which is out in Harbor City, was a state title contender for a bunch of years in a row. Some stuff happened there. The head coach gets out, and then they are decimated carrying one squad, because I think when you have these kind of things happen, kids may not be as want to come back to the team as they did before. Coach Dash, have you ever heard a story like that before? You ever heard a story about like that where you have a team?
Yeah, I mean, the one that comes into mind, there was a guy named Coach Straight Arrow Gennaro. Took over a program.
You set him up so well.
In Texas. Had a great staff around him. Had a guy named Wally Riggendorf running the defense. Solid D coordinator.
Legend.
Look, there's parallels. You know, I'm a fan. That's my favorite football movie. Some people might say Remember the Titans. Some people might say Longest Yard. Others might say Friday Night Lights. I'm a purist, and my favorite movie is Hector Elizondo and Scott Bakula in Roughness.
Sinbad. Don't forget Sinbad.
That's right. We want to partay. Now, look, I love that movie. I really do. There is, look, he's coming to a program. Forget about what happened or why. Forget about all that. But he's coming to a program that's been depleted. Okay, and he's kind of, there's been reports. I don't really know. We did reach out to Freedom. We didn't hear anything back. So. We don't really have, a list of anything right now current. At least I don't. But there were some stories that maybe, that they're going to have a lot less players than last year, probably. At least we know that. And he's trying to kind of put things together. Again, very, very, very Straight Arrow Gennaro like. And all accounts I heard, I read the articles on Coach Ronga. Seems like a great guy, from New York, went to I think in the Dakotas or Wyoming, somewhere up there.
Might have been Montana, maybe.
Dakotas,
he was just recently
Montana,
at Wyoming.
Wyoming,
okay.
Somewhere where they have
he was there a couple years.
So he was in Wyoming. He came back and he came back to the East Coast. I heard he's a good guy. He knows football, bleeds football. So that's great. That's going to be great for the program, great for the kids. He's rebuilding, and so. You know what? Hopefully, I think things are going to work out for them. Hopefully, in the long run, it might be tough the first year or two, but that's just kind of like you said. It was 3-7 was their average, right?
Yeah, that was their best season. That was their best season.
Best season.
Yeah. Before Coach Overton got there, I will say this, and hopefully, I am reaching out to the coaches who are going to play them. So I'll go back to the Narbonne situation. That coach left, and teams took delight in pounding that team. And those kids had nothing to do with what went on there. I know we've all heard stories with Freedom, dropping 100 points on teams. These kids did not do that. So I am appealing to any coaches who are out there, their sensibilities, saying these kids and that coaching staff had nothing to do with whatever problems is. I know the uniform looks the same. I know the kids do not. I know the uniform looks the same. So make sure you think about that when you're playing them this year.
That's a good point, though. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I wonder, too, if because they put up 100 points on Colgan and Coach Scott a couple years ago. I wonder if they're thinking that, even though they know that Freedom, the roster is pretty gutted from their championship squad and their whole coaching staff is new. They might not be thinking that, just a couple years ago, they, even though it was different staff, they dropped 100 points on them. So I wonder if staffs are like, oh, yeah, it's a different staff. But no, they still have the Freedom uniform on. So that'll be curious to see how that's handled this year, too. I mean, Freedom is, it was hard. Just like you guys, I couldn't get a hold of them to do the team previews for Prep Red Zone. What I gather is that they, a lot of kids from their starters, a lot of the starters from last year have moved on to various schools throughout the county. We talked about Caleb Clemens earlier, and the kid's going into Hayfield following Coach Overton there. We don't know that whole situation. We just know, like, from reading up on Coach Ronga, he's an East Coast guy. He had his most success at a couple of schools in New York. And he was out the last couple of years out coaching in Wyoming. Didn't have a ton of success there, but that was part of it. He had some, he wanted to get back with his family here on the East Coast. And I'll give him credit. Like, he accepted this job knowing full hand that he was going to have to get a whole new coaching staff and basically, go the whole Coach Gennaro route and developing a whole new roster for Freedom. And he knew that going in. He still accepted the job, accepted the challenge. It'll be interesting to see what he can do out there.
I'm not going to lie. I will be pulling for the Freedom Eagles this year. I will be.
100%. Yeah, no doubt about it. I am.
Yeah.
I want to see them, I hope they, not to be rude, I just, because their huddle page right now has 5 kids. I hope they have enough kids. I want to see them playing. They talked about, like, a lot of kids at Freedom that didn't get to play these last couple years going back out for football. I know they've had guys like Michael Barrera stick around. He's played a lot. He's a rising senior, a good defensive lineman. He's back in the fold, taking on a leadership role. So, yeah, I'll be pulling for them too.
Yeah. So, and Coach Ron, if you want to reach out, we everyone here would love to have a conversation with you, kind of hear what you're going through, and give us a chance to talk about. I'm sure you got a bunch of boys out there. I'm sure you got a bunch of kids out there who are working hard and know you have no enemies here, and we'll definitely talk about you guys.
Yeah, we're all pulling for Freedom. Let's go. 3P.
3P. There we go.
I believe that was your boys, Mesa. That kind of didn't a 49er kind of run with that one. I thought Roger. No, maybe I'm thinking of the Lakers.
No, you're no Pat Riley. Pat Riley copyrighted the 3P.
3P was Pat Riley. Okay, I was
Pat Riley. Yeah, he copyrighted it. And so
still one of your boys, though.
It is. I'm a huge Laker fan. I love the Showtime Lakers. That was my team.
Yeah, that's fun teams to watch.
Yeah.
All right, look.
That's funny. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. This is fun. You guys have really good thing going on, man. Keep it up. Anything I can do.
That is fantastic hearing.
This is fun, guys.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, right, we appreciate it, man.
All right, guys.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. Carl. All right, take care. My takeaway on this conference, I mean, there's a few takeaways, but I think first and foremost, remember Penn State was linebacker you? This is running back you.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Holy
I mean, just
smokes.
Big guys up front. I mean, just it seems like old school power football, right? I mean, this is old traditional.
Yep.
We're gonna line it up. Here we come. You got to stop us, right?
Yeah.
We talked. We talked before about some of the schools in Fairfax, right, where it's slinging all over the yard.
Yep.
5 wide, 4 wide, just throwing it everywhere. Not here. This is. So I don't know if we really have a comp for this, but this is the black and blue division, right?
Yeah.
This is the NFC Central.
Yes. The old NFC North.
The NFC North. Yeah, it is the NFC North.
It was a Central back. It was a Central back in the day.
It was a Central. Yeah, you're wrong. I'm the old school one with the NFC North.
Except get rid of Tampa out of that. But they get rid of Vinny Testaverde's Tampa team.
Yeah. But this is definitely, I mean, just big 200-pound backs behind.
Yeah, for sure.
300-pound linemen. Just old school. This is heavyweight boxing, right? Just haymaker after haymaker.
And what they have to go with that, though, I mean, we heard a ton of like linebackers with scholarship offers and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's great defense too, and then it's got the hidden part of it all, though. He named like 2 or 3 like quarterbacks who were like 6'3", 4", 250 pound, like gigantic quarterbacks who could probably throw it a country mile. You get those running games going, and you get that play action going.
That's it.
Right? Hit some deep balls. Al Davis would love it.
I mean, so we were talking about Forest Park. You got a 1,500-yard back there. You better respect the run, because if you don't, that kid's going to run right down your throat. Like this is going to there's going to be a there's gonna be a lot of blood and guts over the field in these games, especially with the vacuum, right? Someone's gonna try to take that spot.
Right. It's gonna be fun to watch. I'm very impressed by what we talked about today. Very impressed.
Yeah. Should be an exciting season in the good old Cardinal District.
Now, next episode, we're gonna stay in the neighborhood, sort of, in PW, and we're gonna talk about Cedar Run.
Yeah. Are we not doing our dark horse and our favorites?
Oh, you know what? Let's do it. I got kind of, Carl Frederick joined us today. He was awesome. He left a little bit ago, so kind of almost had me forgetting to do the dark horse and favorites. Otherwise, I would have asked Carl. I'm going to ask Carl next time, actually.
Yeah,
you got to get Carl's opinion. Go ahead. You always go first. That's kind of tradition. So go ahead. Lead us off here.
So, call me crazy. But I like Coach Van Acker. He's got a Division I kid, the running back spot. Sounds like he's got some guys over there. And they were close, right? While they finished in last place, they were 3 games out of second.
Yeah.
They win a couple close games. They had a couple close losses to some of the teams that finished near the top. They kind of turned that around. We're talking about just dark horses. Because I think the other ones are kind of all jumbled in the middle.
Yeah.
So I think they are their own really dark horse out of the whole thing because of where they finished, right? The other ones are with all within a game of each other.
Right.
Where you have Hilton finish last. I think I do like and you can call me biased. And I'm not. I'm just looking straight at what they have. I do like Hilton to kind of be the dark horse of it.
Yeah, crazy. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. I like it. I'm with you on that. I think they check a lot of the boxes. A lot of the boxes. I know, he's got a senior quarterback and a young quarterback, and they're kind of figuring that out. But they check almost every box. And an important box they check is a coach who's, won at almost every stop he's been at.
Right.
Almost every amount of talent he's had at every school. So yeah, I like Hylton, and that's a school tradition.
Yeah.
I mean, they were a power for so long. So I'm with you. The dark horse, they got a shot to go from last in the division to who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
All right, so who's your favorite? I mean, I kind of see this coming, but who's your favorite?
I mean, 2 Division I linemen and a 1,500-yard back.
Yeah.
And 3 scholarship kids on defense.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, just that's what you want, right? You want dominating, you want physical. I mean, I know Carl was like, I don't know if you win the playoffs. I beg to differ. I think when it starts getting cold outside, you want to be able to pound the football.
They're going to be doing snow dances over there, hoping for bad weather, right?
Yes. I mean, you get that, we're talking about, middle of November, Virginia weather, right? It's starting to get cold, start getting rainy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a 1,500 back behind 2 guys who can clear the road.
Man, I'll tell you what. The 2, I wanted to pick somebody else. I'm not going to lie. I almost wanted to just force it and just go with. I was thinking
I have another one.
Well, I liked what I heard from Woodbridge.
Yeah,
I liked what I heard there. A couple of the schools. I liked what I heard about a couple of the schools. But at the end of the day, 2 Division I linemen and a solid running back. Now I will say this: they're my favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, you sell out on the run and you force. Like I said, there was a coach who was high on young Nathan Song, their quarterback, but he's young. He's a young quarterback. Hasn't seen a lot of action. And whoever else is going against him in camp, and that job is still up in the air, I think. But that if there's something, right, like the Gar-Field game that Carl mentioned, you sell out for that run, and they have to beat you by air, and can they do it? But with those 2 linemen, they might not even need to.
Right. Yeah, I thought you were going to say something because the other team I toyed with going with was Gar-Field.
Yeah. Gar-Field got some studs. You're right.
And they beat him.
You're right. And Gar-Field was the one where he just rattled off Carl rattled off like 20 guys who were all-stars. I mean, that sounded like a very impressive roster.
And they beat him, but at this point, Well, I guess Freedom's still the champ, right? So they still hold the title.
They are the champ. I mean, we talked about, we talk about boxing all the time, and right now, they still are technically the champ.
Yeah.
So someone's got to take it from them.
So, but it should be some great football, huh?
Man, I'm excited. And I'll tell you what, I'm a Nova guy, obviously, but never really, unless my team was playing a PW team, really didn't really keep track on every little detail of PW. But now, reading up on it now, studying it now, it's good football out there.
Yeah,
it's good football. And I know Battlefield. I mean, I there's a couple powers out there. I'm not referring to them.
Yeah,
but there's good football out here that they were powerhouses once upon a time. They kind of, over the last 10 years or so, kind of faded out. I think there's a resurgence of some of these teams. I think you're seeing it with Gar-Field. You're seeing it with Van Acker at Hylton. Teams that were powerhouses once upon a time, I think they're on their way back.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
buddy, so next episode, we're going to talk about CEDAR Run.
Yep.
And now you talk about some excellence being played out there, and that's not being overlooked.
No.
Battlefield, Gainesville, these are kind of the new programs, newer Patriot.
Yeah. No, I mean they've got 3 really good programs in there, and we'll kind of talk about where their standings kind of shook out last year. It seems like there's a divide right now between them, but for sure, I think we both talked a little about Battlefield and coming into that next program. Battlefield's pretty good. They're pretty good, and they're also while they're not in the Cardinal, they are in the region that's been dominated by Freedom.
Yep.
Freedom is now gone. Who is going to be that team that's going to make this their region?
Yes,
right?
yes,
and,
you're right.
And let's be honest, Freedom's been, Battlefield's been right at that step for a bunch of years now, and so is this a time they finally take it over and they reign supremacy over the land?
Could be their turn. Could be their turn. Man, fun night tonight. Fun talking to you. Fun talking to Carl. And we're gonna have him on again, talking about CEDAR Run. Man, I'm ready to go freaking throw the football right now. I might wake the kids up and it's evening time here, but I might just wake everybody up and let's just start handing the ball off after hearing that. I'm not even going to throw the football. I'm just going to, hey guys, let's start handing the ball off. Do some running back drills.
Let's run dive. Let's run power.
Mommy, Dad's got issues. He wants to just hand me a football over and over again. I just started talking about CEDAR Run, kid. Come on, take the football.
You're going to go in the wishbone formation, run a little crossbuck. Crossbuck action right there.
Good stuff.
Good old Barry Switzer, little Barry Switzer playbook.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Coach Mesa, it's been fun. I look forward to the next night. I do want to say before we go, you're watching this, subscribe, hit that little button. It's somewhere right there. Hit that subscribe button. I see it right there in front of me. Please hit it. And if you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple, however you're listening to it or watching it, please subscribe. Really, the numbers are growing, and we want to see them, increase, and we want the word to spread. We want the kids, we want their families, we want the coaches, we want admin, we want everybody watching this stuff and kind of getting excited about their teams.
We're doing this for you. It's all free. It's all free. Merry Christmas, everybody. Every time you watch this, every time you listen to us, it is Merry Christmas. It is a free gift for you.
Yes.
To be able to join us with us on the greatest Nova High School football podcast currently in existence.
All right, guys. It's been real. See you next time.
See ya.